Homegrown tomatoes are the ultimate in taste and texture, so much better than the cardboard grocery knockoff ones. Tomatoes need some care, but are easy to grow and productive, saving you lots of money. Thanks, Steve, for suggesting this video. Tomatoes have a long growing period and take more than 100 days to mature. That's why most people start their own plants from seed. Also, starting your own plants gives you more choices of varieties. You can also buy transplants at your local nursery. Tomatoes like it hot. They prefer 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit for germination. Less than that is not terrible, but it will just slow down the process a bit. I typically have the air temperature around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. One way to provide extra warmth during germination is to use a seed heating mat. After your seeds germinate, you should keep the room between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 to 21 degrees Celsius. It's okay if your night temps drop 5 to 10 degrees or so, never below 50. This actually helps prevent stretching. Get your tomatoes off to a good start. Choose a lightweight, sterile organic seedling mix. Don't use garden soil because it may harbor disease organisms. Soil should be slightly damp. At 2 weeks, I give my seedlings a diluted half strength dose of fish emulsion. Artificial lights are very beneficial for young seedlings. Putting seeds in a southern window is okay, but does not supply the amount of sunlight your seedlings need to grow productively. The best lights are adjustable. Keep the lights within a few inches of your plants and raise them accordingly. The one on the left is a smaller countertop system I use mainly to grow lettuce in winter. The one on the right is a large shelf with grow lights underneath each shelf. I start tomatoes in 3-inch jiffy or a 24 tray. I will admit that I don't like to bump up seedlings, so I start in a good size for older seedlings. I seed my tomatoes around March 15th for zone 6B. Honestly, I've tried earlier and it has not gained me any time. You also run the risk of them getting leggy and not being as healthy and strong as they should be. So I stick with March 15th as my target. That way, I can move them from the grow room to the greenhouse in mid April. If we're having an early spring, I will plant a few under a heavy row cover in the raised beds. If you grow a lot of tomatoes for home canning or markets, you may want to start them in a 72 tray to save space early on in the growing room. This means you will need to carefully prick out the young plants and bump them up to a bigger jiffy pot or larger seed tray like a 24. Now there's a beautiful transplant. The stem is nice and sturdy and not too leggy. Leggy stems are tall and spindly because the plant didn't have enough light or was in the pot too long. A sturdy stem and a nice developed root system are what we are shooting for. Ideally, you are preparing the soil for tomatoes in the fall. However, don't fret if you didn't. We can work with that. Just try to prep their area 2 months before you plant so that the nutrients have a chance to blend into the soil. Tomatoes need a location in full sun with well draining soil. Many areas of USDA Zone 6B have heavy clay soil. Tomatoes need phosphorus and calcium. Gypsum can be added in the fall and will make the soil lighter as well as add calcium. The soil pH of around 6.5 to 6.7 is best. Add lime if your pH is lower. Tomatoes like rich soil, so add plenty of aged compost. This will add nutrients and good tilth. Never add fresh manure, not even more mild manure such as rabbit, because you will get lots of leaves and little fruit. Tomatoes are a bit picky when it comes to soil and nutrients. A soil test will help you build the optimum soil. Check out my video and article on soil testing linked in the description. It's important to aim for good transplant timing. Tomatoes can be picky about transplanting and don't like change. To help with making a good transition, set your seedling trays outside on nice days. I often take my trays from the grow room to the greenhouse to help them get used to being outside because once they are ready to plant in the ground, dig a deep hole with your trowel and plant them right up to the first leaves. I sometimes even remove the lowest leaves before planting in the ground. By planting the seedling deeply, you give the tomato an advantage. They will send roots out to the stem to better anchor and feed the young plant. Plant your tomatoes 18 to 24 inches apart if you are using rows. If you are using raised beds with deep soil, you can have them on the closer side. I have a friend that owns a greenhouse, and I have often been gifted with leftover leggy tomato plants. You can put these in the garden by laying them horizontally on their sides with just the top leaves above the soil line. They will need some time to settle in and adjust, but they will become viable and productive plants. Tomatoes do well in containers, grow bags, and even in hanging bags like the ones on the right side of the picture. This is a great way to use some vertical space. If you have a deep raised bed, you can plant them closer together. Just have a strong trellis that they can climb upwards on. Tomatoes also do well in a hydroponic system. This is a countertop one. You will need to purchase a mini variety for this kind of system. Obviously, you aren't going to get as much yield with this, but it produces enough for a single person or couple. The average yield is around 5 pounds per plant in a system similar to this. Grow bags are super cool. They allow air circulation, which means healthy roots. Great for patios or along a walkway. Get the ones with handles so you can move them if needed. For tomatoes, get a minimum of a 10-gallon bag. Keep in mind that plants in grow bags will need more frequent watering than those in garden soil. After transplanting, I give my tomatoes a dose of fish emulsion fertilizer when watering them in. Drip irrigation is fabulous for tomatoes. We want to water the soil, not the plant. Watering from the top encourages diseases. I will be making another video to talk about tomato diseases and how to prevent and treat them. Marigolds are a great companion plant for tomatoes, and they look pretty. Studies have shown that marigolds help repel whiteflies and nematodes. Planting your tomatoes in a greenhouse can add a couple of weeks to each end of the season. Tomatoes benefit from trellising. This helps promote good air circulation and keeps them from laying on the ground and in touch with undesirable microorganisms. The picture on the left is one of my interns running hemp string in between metal posts to hold the plants up. Bamboo, like in the picture to the right, makes a good, strong trellis. A metal cattle panel fence section makes a great trellis and is very sturdy. Typically, they are 16 feet long, but you can cut them and, like in this picture, just kind of fold them over so you have two sides, and then you can plant the tomatoes right in the middle. You can purchase these style tomato cages at any big box store. I often run a metal fence post in the ground next to them and tie the cage to it. This just makes them stand up better. Tomato plants get pretty heavy when they have lots of fruit on them and can tip over the cages. You can let the tomatoes sprawl on the ground on a thick blanket of straw. This method often gives higher yields. However, it makes them much harder to harvest and they are more prone to slugs and viruses. Wow, there is so much to talk about when it comes to tomatoes. I will be doing a video on tomato diseases and another video on my favorite varieties. In the meantime, check out some of my other gardening videos. Leave any questions or comments below. Happy planting and have a fabulous day.